everyone. I am Nancy Naji. I am Nancy Naji. I am Nancy Naji. Welcome to our segment, Hello Money. Today we'll be talking about the payday. You have to be street smart. We all know this year. No grief for anybody is our 2024 tagline.
Come for Africa to engage in serious conversation aimed at finding answers for its problems.
My brothers and sisters, I firmly believe this mutually beneficial friendship will benefit from opportunities created by the African Economic Congress platform. And this is the reason we need to deepen democracy in Africa and empower citizens and civil society organizations.
The Bank Directors Association of Nigeria has rejected the views expressed by the chairman of First Bank Nigeria Holdings, Femi Otedola, and chairman of HES Holdings, Tony Elumelu, regarding the proposed foreign exchange windfall tax. The association clarified that their support for the tax reflects personal opinions and does not represent the position of the entire banking community. It is worth noting that the National Assembly has passed a bill imposing a windfall tax on commercial banks that benefited from CBN forex subsidies, with various stakeholders opposing the proposed levy. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has strongly condemned the recent anti-immigration riots, denouncing them as acts of far-right thuggery. He stated that those involved in the violence will face the full force of the law. Starmer assured that the police will be making arrests. Individuals will be held on remand, and charges as well as convictions will follow.
Far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. If you target people because of the colour of their skin or their faith, then that is far right, and I'm prepared to say so. But it doesn't matter what apparent motivation there is. This is violence, it is not protest. It doesn't matter what the motivation is. The motivation for the vast majority of people in this country is to see their streets safe. And that's what I'm determined that we will deliver.
Let's talk about the markets. The local stock markets rose slightly on Friday, with the all-share index up by about 40 basis points, but down 46 basis points for the week. We know that it was a turbulent week last week here in the country, as the all-share index closed at 97,745.73 points. Market cap ended at 55 trillion naira, with a year-to-date return of 30.72%. Now, take a look at the naira. It depreciated by about 0.48% to 1,617 naira 8 kobo at NAFEM. If we take a look at the money market, liquidity started at 660.49 billion naira, and OBB and overnight rates fell to 25.6% and 26% respectively. For the Treasury bills market, we saw limited activity, and the FGN local bond market remained quiet. Last week, the FGN Eurobond market began positively but turned bearish ahead of the Fed decision, with the average benchmark yield rising 29 basis points to 10.24%. For U.S. stock market this morning, futures fell early Monday after the Nasdaq Composite entered correction territory last week. European and Asian markets also dropped amid global recession fears. All prices hit in 8-month lows due to U.S. recession concerns, while gold prices are rising on expectations of Fed rate cuts. All right, that's it for the markets. Let's quickly take a break, and when we return, it'll be time for us to get into our conversation. My guest is Mr. Wale Ajayi, partner and head tax regulatory and people services at KPMG. We will be looking at this hardship protest, if indeed the president's speech was enough to quell the demand of protesters, and we'll take a look at some of those things that the president did mention in the speech on Sunday morning. Let's quickly take a break. Still keep us company. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hiring. Have you got what it takes to join a dynamic global energy company of choice? Are you ready to experience a career driven by innovation and excellence? NNPC Limited is looking for young talents and result-oriented experienced professionals to make valuable contributions to NNPC Limited's business objectives. Hurry now and apply at careers.nnpcgroup.com. Application closes on the 20th of August 2024. Recruitment is strictly on merit.
Things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
Look will I fathom or comprehend the lie you give? Tell me, where do I begin? Oh, hey, look at my hands up. Kimake be cherubim. Tabi said I feel alone. Lord, Timo, why you want to fish shobora? Your mercy, your goodness, in my finger.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you to my team for wishing me a happy birthday. Of course, in as much as I'm grateful, the country is really in a certain mood this morning, but I take all that in. Thank you guys for doing that. Now, let's get started. My guest is joining me virtually is Mr. Wale Ajayi. He's the partner head tax regulatory and people services at KPMG. Mr. Ajayi, good morning and good to see you again. It's been a while. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Nancy, and it's good to be here. Let me join others to wish you happy birthday also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What a birthday within this period. Let me start by asking you, walk me through your reaction of Sunday's speech by the president. I think there's a movie called The President's Speech too, I guess that's the name of the movie, if I'm not mistaken. There's a movie called the American President and the President's Speech, isn't it? No, okay, it's the King's Speech. It's the King's Speech.
Yeah, I know about the King's Speech.
Yes, yes, the King's Speech. But walk me through your reaction and do tell me if indeed Mr. President addressed the real issues yesterday.
I mean, to be honest, right? Everybody was quite expectant, and I'm sure that nearly everybody, listened to that speech by the president. And I really empathize with this government, given the challenges and the headwinds that they face, right? The fact of the matter is that Nigerians are hungry, right? So we spoke about food inflation earlier on in one of your segments of the program. When if you have food inflation at about 40%, and you have composites called CPI, at about 34%. That is pretty expensive. The cost of living is extremely high. So people were highly expectant that government, or the president will address some of the issues that, they're dealing with. But unfortunately, as you've heard from other segments, there have been mixed reactions to what the president, spoke about. And for me, like I said, I empathize with this government. The government rolled out so many achievements of what they have done. I'm sure we're going to dive into that later on. But I think the problem is, in terms of getting Nigerians to be aware of exactly what is happening. And there are certain things that people wanted to hear from the president's speech that was not addressed. If you're asking Nigerians to tighten their belts, then you also have to look at the cost of governance in Nigeria. We have to look at transparency in Nigeria. Those were issues that were not addressed in that speech. It's all well and good for the president, to say that income revenue in Nigeria has gone up. In fact, has tripled. We're looking at about 9 trillion in revenue as at half year. But what he did not talk about is deficit. Where were we with respect to expenditure, right? Income has gone up, but what about expenditure? So there's so many issues that government are looking at. What are the stimulus packages? There's so many things that the president spoke about that they're doing. But the problem is there isn't that much awareness of who is benefiting from this. Because when you ask people around, nobody can actually point to someone that has benefited, from these stimulus packages. And that is really where we have a problem. There is a gap, there's a deficit gap, information gap between what the president is saying and what people are feeling in their pocket and in their belly. And I think that is what is missing, from the president's speech. So the president needs to speak more. I think he probably should have spoken before the protest started, not after the protest has started, right? And so people reacted to that because they were expecting something much more that the president did not address.
If you take a look at when the president spoke, of course, this protest started on August 1 and the president spoke on August 4. Was it a little too late? And perhaps even what the president did say, of course, I don't know if you were watching earlier on our correspondence that I took, some kind of protest is still going on in Lagos, precisely Ojota. Here in Abuja, high security presence all over the city. So there's still this kind of dissatisfaction from Nigerians that the president did not attend to us. Perhaps he spoke to himself. Or like the Yorubas will say, you're Yoruba, so you understand. Omogbaje and Simi. Omogbaje and Simi. That is, let me translate it. I better collect, make I rest. So perhaps that was the body language of the president yesterday. What do you have to say about that?
I think there's so many headwinds we're facing in Nigeria, and obviously it's not only Nigeria alone. If you look at the US, it's the same thing that is happening in the UK. Cost of living, even though theirs is coming down a bit, inflation also is being tamed in Nigeria. At least you can see what the CPN is doing. Inflation, even though it's going up, but it's going up at a decreasing rate. So what that tells me is that those policies they put in place, are working, but it's going to take time. But the question is, how much time, are we willing to give to this government? And people need to see signs that this government actually means business. I spoke about transparency. I think the biggest challenge that people cannot, relate with is that government speaks about the need for us to tighten our belts. Government speaks about the need for us to be patient, right? But they can't see what government is also doing on the part to reduce the cost of governance. And so when you look at what the government is saying and what they're doing, there appears to be a disconnect that many Nigerians cannot relate with or relate to. But I empathize with them. I think the president, should have spoken much earlier. I think he needs to be, communicating with Nigerians much more. And, people need to really understand what exactly is happening. I think it's only the president that can tell or that can sell himself to Nigerians, not through the advisor to the president on information and what have you. We need to see the president more talking about what they're doing. When the president was speaking, he spoke about 29 policy announcements and certain achievements that they made. They've recorded that I'm sure that most Nigerians are not aware of because they can't feel it in their purse, in their belly or in their wallet or purse, right? Government needs to address, the cost of living in Nigeria. People are hungry, and that is a fact. And how do we deal with that issue? People need, something to cushion the impact of the policies that government has put in place. But we all realize that, look, the impact of those policies will take time, to be felt by people, and we need to be patient. But the question is, how much time are Nigerians willing to give? And this is where we need the president to speak much more, and address the nation on a proactive basis, not on a reactive basis. I felt that the speech was more reactive, and I think that was why, the protest has continued, even this week.
For me, when I listened to the president yesterday, for me, my own analysis was that, okay, there's nothing different from what his aides or his policies has been over the months. telling us why fuel subsidy removal is necessary. CNG buses are available, but we are not seeing it. The striking thing, the thing that was different for me yesterday was that when he talked about 570 billion naira has been given to states as livelihood support, that was something new that I've not heard in terms of, oh, when did these governors get this money and they are all quiet about it? Then the area of, the revenue in terms of 9.1 trillion naira has come. What else again did the president say that was not new to me? So for me, it's a matter of justifying what the president said as against the demands of the protesters. So the president was just coming to rehash. It was like an October 1 speech, for example, that, okay, yeah, or any other speech, but not a speech of exigence.
But I agree with you. I mean, there's some new things that the president actually did allude to in his speech, but I think there's a disconnect again. I think it still boils down to information gap. I mean, he spoke about the 1 billion naira they've given to large multinational manufacturing companies in Nigeria, right, to boost output. And the question is, whoa, which companies are these?
No, but
Nobody
that
knows.
would be part of, this, I assume that 1 billion naira each, sorry to cut you short, would be from the
Yeah.
75 billion naira, which the president did mention, I think in the July 30 broadcast last year. I hope you remembered he addressed
Yeah.
Nigerians when I think this cost of living crisis started permeating our environment. So he did mention that time 75 billion. But what we will find out is if indeed these large manufacturers have gotten that, because the last time I spoke with the DG of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria months ago, there was nothing. They had not even assessed it.
That's the problem. Okay, but let's even speak about the 1 billion. Let's even assume the 1 billion that single digit loan was provided to large manufacturing companies. But we need to first understand, what is driving, what is the cost of the manufacturing issues that we have in Nigeria today. I mean, the composite purchasers managers index has just been released, and there's a contraction. We're below 50%, is about 49%, right? Because you look at the issues that manufacturers are facing. Number one, I mean, which is obvious, is power. Power is an issue. Number two, cost of interest, cost of borrowing is an issue. Access to forex is an issue. So there's so many issues that are facing. So the way I look at it is a question of transparency and carrying people along and telling us there is indeed an information gap. Look at the comment that the president made about this Nigerian education student loan. That about 46 billion naira, is being processed, for that. And that is going to add on top of that another 50 billion naira. And then, and the question is, look, I mean, I've tried to go onto the portal. Some people have applied to the portal. All they will say to you is that, oh, well, they have been verified, but nothing has happened. They've not heard anything, right? So I think that the disconnect is in, what the president or what the government is saying and what is actually on ground. And I think they need to do much more, talking about, what they're doing and also being transparent. Because, at the end of the day, it's about transparency. If you and I cannot point to whoever has benefited, we talk about the stimulus packages, right? I mean, the other day we spoke about the 40,000 naira for bag of rice, 50 kg rice, right? But the question is the rice currently available or is going to be made available? But the way it was presented is that it's already been made available. So there is a gap, and people are asking, but I can't see anybody who has already benefited from this. And so the government has to be much more transparent, in their communication. They need to do a better job, at communicating, what the achievements are and what is in plan. But the fact of the matter is that Nigerians, we need to be patient. But again, the question is, for how long can we be patient?
For how long our resilience elasticity is so stretched now,
Yeah.
our patience capital is very, very thin. If we still take a look at what the president did say on Sunday, you're looking at, for me, another surprising and yet interesting stuff for me is that the president said that they are going to cultivate 10 million hectares of land. The last time I
Yes.
checked, the federal government does not have authority over lands in the country, it's the states. And this same
Yes.
president also announced in July of last year that 500 hectares of land will be cultivated when he put together an emergency food committee they did say that they will cultivate 500,000 hectares of food to tackle food inflation. I'm not getting anything from that. And now the president on Sunday did say 10 million hectares of land. Is it that he has communicated with the governors? Where are the 10 million hectares of lands now? I hope you understand what I'm saying. So is he just telling us
Yeah,
something to just tell us, just to talk?
the way I look at it is that I think the government, the president announces this policy, right? I'm not sure that it's all the things, all the processes that they need to put in place have already been put in place. That is the way I look at it. So there is a gap. Now, I do agree with the president that we need to have some sort of governance issues when it comes to land, especially when you look at the fact that in Nigeria, land is fragmented, right? I mean, you have all small parcels of land here and there. You need to have them, concentrated, right? So we need to have that. We need to secure land right, for farmers. But the biggest issue for me is you can do all those things. What about security? We need to find out, how do we protect the farmers, from all the attacks, that we're seeing. Then of course there is also the issue of infrastructure, right? Even if you cultivate all the land, you have all the crops. Harvest is coming in October and November. We know that a significant portion of the harvest is lost, to storage and transport issues in Nigeria. So we need to look at that. How do we ensure that we're able to invest in infrastructure so that we can even, protect the harvest that, we have? Right. Of course, we've spoken about the need that government is trying to reduce, remove import duty, on some staple foods, right? Just, for 6 months, just to be able to reduce food inflation. When you have a situation, food inflation is at 40%, right? That is high, right? And that is something that we really need, to do. We got to invest. Definitely, agriculture is some area that we need to invest in. We have to promote R&D in agriculture. We have to promote innovative practices in agriculture. We need to get youth into our farms. We need to get public and private sector into agriculture. He spoke about, even in his president's speech, he spoke about tractors and some equipment that they're importing, right? But all those things will pale into insignificance if we do not address the security issue that the farmers are facing.
So what will actually bring down the cost of living? Because part of the demands of the protesters is that let fuel subsidy be reversed, removal be reversed. And I did analyze that even on the show last Friday with my guest, because that is the only language that many Nigerians will understand. Economically, that if you bring down the price of fuel, food price will automatically go down. And that's it. There's a reason to that, as it were. In some parts of the country, many parts of the country, a liter of fuel is going for over 1,000 naira. I was speaking with someone this morning, and she told me that a liter of fuel goes for 1,000 naira in the southeast states. So you can imagine, how can somebody buy 10 liters of fuel with 10,000 naira in this economy? Don't give me about minimum wage is 70K. Yeah. So is it 10 liters that will be enough for your car? Then let alone the cost of food. Food inflation is at over 40%. I know that Cardoso is trying to raise interest rate, and I raised it with him at the MPC meeting the last time,
yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yes.
That I don't know what you are doing. Is it about raising interest rates? But I also understand their challenges as a monetary authority. So if someone is buying 10 liters of fuel for 10K, let me even say the Okada or the Keke Marwa, let me put it that way. Is it Keke Napep or the tricycles? Yes, will 10 liters of fuel be able to take you through the day to carry your passengers, or even a car? Then you now buy food. Gari itself is not cheap. So what will really bring down the cost of living? Let me now also go to power. Power is another thing for those of us. Anyway, band A now has even increased. They've even used style to increase the price. But so, and you're also seeing another thing is that there's energy theft also going on because energy prices have gone on. So I'm just saying, what's the opportunity cost of all of that? So I'd like you to comment on that. What will really bring down this cost of living crisis?
Okay, let me say once and for all. Firstly, I support the president's decision, to remove subsidy. Nobody benefits from subsidy, right? We've never benefited from subsidy.
So which subsidy do we now have as Nigerians?
No,
there are subsidies all over the world. You work for KPMG. That's a global
Yes.
consulting firm. The US, for example, is the father of subsidies. The UK, Italy, Spain, they have subsidies even for their farmers. We shouldn't paint it that
Yes.
subsidies are also bad.
Yes, nobody is saying that subsidy is bad. The problem is where you direct your subsidy. We're directing subsidy to consumption rather than production. So that's the biggest problem. So with the issue that we have, I mean, for the first time, if you look at the amount of money that FARC has distributed, for the first time, it's been on the increase since subsidy was removed. The question is, what are the states doing with the money, with the enhanced money that they've collected? So I don't support the removal of subsidy. But even as I'm sorry, the retention of for us to return to subsidy. But even now, even as I'm saying this to you, I mean, currently crude oil price per barrel is about $75, right? It's over around $80 for the past couple of weeks. But then there's subsidy, right? Even though government has not said it, government is still saying that subsidy has been removed. But we know that subsidy is still there, right? But we know that the only way we can be efficient and we can create an efficient market is for us to remove subsidy and divert the proceeds into infrastructure. We need to be able to create a conducive environment in Nigeria. Now, speaking specifically about your question with respect to food inflation, I mean, like I've said, food inflation is about 40% according to MBS, right? I think what we can do, we know that between now and November, the prices of goods may come down, right, because of the harvest that is expected. We're expecting bumper harvest. Hopefully, we can preserve the harvest and we can transport the harvest to where it is needed. So the prices might come down, but that's a short-term issue.
Okay.
We need to be thinking about long-term. Like when you look at agri contributes close to about 25% to our GDP, but the growth rate from the agri sector has declined. It's less than about 2%, right? So there's something that we need to do. We need to think long-term. But I think the biggest challenge we have in Nigeria today is that even though it announces a lot of stimulus packages.
Mr. Jai, can you hear me? Okay, it seems the network just froze on us. Mr. Jai?
Feel the impact of the reforms being put in place by government.
Okay, Mr. Jai, I think we'll continue our conversation another day. Thank you very much for joining us and for your insight and for your insights this morning. I've been speaking with...
Thank you, and happy birthday to you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I've been speaking with Mr. Wale Ajayi, who is the partner head, tax regulatory and people services at KPMG. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Please join us again tomorrow for another edition. Bye now. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, a financial journalist, the anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. Today I'll be talking about smart savings tips for students.
Great Nigerian student. Great. Very good.
So attention students, hold your ears so that you can say goodbye to financial struggles. Number one, calculate your income. Know how much money is coming in so that you can set a realistic budget. Number two, track your spending. Monitor monthly expenses to identify areas for potential savings. Number three, set financial goals for yourself. Establish short and long-term goals to guide your budgeting efforts. Number four, compare your income and expenses. Ensure that your income covers your essential needs, adjusting spending accordingly. Number 5, buy second-hand items if you can. And if I know you can, so save money by purchasing used items, especially books that are expensive items for you while in school. Number 6, cook your meals. Cut cost by limiting dining out. Cooking at home is not only economical, but promotes self-care. I'll see you all in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy, and join us on our program on AIT too. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, financial journalist. I'll be talking about common money mistakes to avoid. Number 1, ignoring financial challenges. Tough times, of course, bring discouragement, but don't let it lead you to overlooking financial issues. Make 2024 the year for financial organization. Address and understand your financial concerns. Seek advice from professionals to gain insight and clarity. Number 2, avoid over concentration in investments. Don't put your investments in one basket. Placing all your financial resources in a single investment or sector poses risk of financial losses. Experts advise diversifying your portfolio across various assets like stocks, bonds, real estate, and more for better risk management. Number 3, neglecting an emergency fund. The lessons we learned in 2020 from the COVID-19 pandemic emphasize the necessity of an emergency fund. It serves as a crucial safety net for unexpected events like job loss or unforeseen medical expenses. Even starting with small contributions can lay the foundation for this essential financial cushion. Number 4, open communication about family finances. Discussing money matters within the family, especially between spouses, is very vital. Understanding each other's approach to money and responses to financial situations foster clarity. So if your husband is a prudent type that knows about investment, he can handle issues about money. If your wife is the same, she can handle issues about money. But joint discussions enable better family financial decisions, including involving grown children, establishing a clear understanding of the family's financial standing. I'll see you all again in the next video. I hope you've learned common money mistakes to avoid in 2024. I'll see you all again. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Hello everyone, I am Nancy Naji, the anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. Today I will be talking about January federal government savings bonds. The Debt Management Office has introduced 2 new savings bonds for subscription at 1,000 naira per unit. These are the initial offers for 2024, with one being a 2-year bond set to mature on January 17, 2026 at an interest rate of 11.033% per annum. The other is a 3-year bond maturing on January 17, 2027 with an interest rate of 12.033% per annum. Both bonds are open for subscription. They've been opened from Monday, January 8th, and they will last till Friday, January 12th, with a settlement on January 17th and coupon payment on April 17th, July 17th, October 17th, and January 17th. Investors can subscribe starting from a minimum of 5,000 naira and in multiples of 1,000 naira thereafter, with a maximum subscription of 50 million naira. Interest is paid quarterly and the principal amount is repaid in full upon maturity. These savings bonds, like other federal government securities, are supported by the full faith and credit of the federal government and secured against Nigeria's general assets. What are you waiting for? As little as 5,000 naira, you can invest. Check out your licensed bank or your stockbroker. I'll see you in the next video.